What's your gold
Be
nugget?
happy. I'm just kidding.
Don't worry. Be happy. Be happy now.
Don't worry, be happy. Hiya, girls.
Hiya.
Hiya.
How's it going today?
Great. It's wonderful. How are y'all?
Awesome.
You guys had to think about it.
No, I didn't.
No.
Okay.
No.
Good.
No.
Awesome
Just
for me.
rolled right out. Just rolled
Okay,
right out.
good.
Yeah. Greeting to all our listeners. Thanks so much for being here and being loyal to our podcast and telling your friends. We appreciate y'all listening.
Yeah, and the comments.
Yeah.
We got a lot of comments. So please hit the like button. Just reminding you one
That's
more
right.
time. Hit the like button if you like this podcast today or if you
Yeah.
like anything about what we're doing. We're going to do a hat drawing one more time. Yay!
All
Hat
right,
drawing.
get on it.
I'm doing it quick. Black hat. Here we go. First one.
Lori Stewart.
Okay.
4804.
4804. These are new comments we got.
Susan Clem.
Susan Clem.
Susan Timbrink.
There you go. At Nima.
Nima.
Nima. Trying to keep everything in the camera so nobody thinks we're
Kathy
messing around.
Scott, 7-Eleven.
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 She probably owns
And
7-Eleven.
She
Yeah.
probably does. Or one of them.
Pam
Pam
Norman.
Norman. B7N.
I'm going to
Shake, shake,
close
shake,
up
shake,
the-
shake.
Shake,
Shake it up.
shake.
Shake it up. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
The
And
winner
the
is
winner is
Susan
Susan
Timbrink.
Yay!
Susan!
Yay!
Let us
Susan, you
know.
will get.
You're
Yeah.
a winner.
We'll get you a hat, and you can take a picture of yourself and your pretty little face and send it to us.
That's right.
And tell us if you want black or white.
That's right.
Yes.
Awesome.
Woohoo!
Okay.
All right. Our topic this week is it's about happiness, right? So
If you're happy and you know
thought it would be a great
hands.
subject. We picked the subject, and then we actually ran across. Is that the right way to? Came across a great podcast, Diary of a CEO. He has some incredible guests, and his guests happened to be Mo Gawdat, who had. It was the whole podcast about being happy. It was really quite fascinating. Sort of changed my. It actually helped me define my thought process of happiness, because when we first brought it up, I was like, happiness is so up and down, like I know you can generally say, oh, I'm happy, I'm happy overall, but I was just trying to figure out, like, it just seems like such a fleeting emotion, not something that kind of sticks around maybe.
Yeah.
But after listening to that podcast, I think he totally just nailed it on what it is. And I had a definition of happiness. It's of course I'm not going to be able to find it right now.
I had a definition, but I am
Did you?
pissed off. I can't find it.
Oh, okay.
Makes me very unhappy that I
Yeah.
cannot find my
I know.
happy comment.
He does have it. So happiness is the calm and peacefulness you feel when you're okay with life as it is. So that's exactly what it is. And I think one of my takeaways from this is that he talked a lot about specific events do not make you happy. So he was talking about how really it's a comparison of what the event is according to our expectations.
Right.
So the actual versus perception. And one of the examples was he had a couple of them, but the one that stuck with me is nature. So nature, he's like, nature, you go out, everybody wants to go out in nature and enjoy, the quiet, whatever. But he's like, nature has a lot of bugs and asymmetry in the trees and there's just animals, eating each other, that sort of thing. But we love to go out there. And it's because we know that's the expectation when we go out to nature, right? So our expectation is that it's not perfect, but it's the quiet or whatever else we're seeking.
Right.
And so that it's the expectation that ruins your happiness, which I thought was really interesting, because he was talking about like rain, like rain itself isn't something that makes you anything really. But if you're going on vacation and it's raining, then of course it's gonna
Or if it's your
not make
wedding
you
day.
feel good. Yeah.
Right.
It's your wedding day.
Outside. Yeah.
Exactly. But if you're in a drought and you get rain, oh my gosh, the best day ever. So it's
Celebration,
not about rain itself. It's about the expectation of that rain. So I don't know, that kind of hit home for me, because that's exactly how I feel about happiness. And I don't know, I have like a whole page, and I'll keep talking, but what were some of y'all's kind of quick thoughts about what you heard from that podcast?
I really liked his 3 questions that he goes through when something happens. He has 3 questions that he asks himself. And I think it's a really good way. And he said, I remember him saying, like, it takes me 5-6 seconds to do this because I've gotten so good at it. But I wrote them down. The first one was, is what I'm thinking true? Because and I find this is very powerful for me, because especially if how people think about me is a big thing for me. So is this true? Well, we don't know. Probably not, but is it true? The second, if it is true, can I do something about it? If nothing can be done, can it be accepted, and start to do something to make my life better despite or because of it? So I thought that was really good. Can you do something? If you can't do anything about it, let it go. If I can do something about it, can I make it, do it despite or because? So I thought that was really powerful to kind of, especially if you suffer for a little bit of anxiety. I think this would be a good way to kind of put things more in order, to kind of get you thinking clearly.
I think the key there, though, for me, when I was listening to him, it was one of the best podcasts I've ever listened to be quite honest. He was such a clear, concise communicator.
Yes, he was.
And also his life experience is so tragic that it's phenomenal that he has the type of outlook on life that he has.
Yeah.
But I will say, when I was listening, I kept thinking to myself, you must be at the stage of life where you want to be aware of what your thoughts are all day. You know? And I know that we have talked about this several times, but you really need to be in a position in your life where you're either so fed up with how you're thinking or how your life is going, or you're suffering so much that you really are trying to make a change, and it's going to have to start with you. Or you're in a good place and we're aging, right? And we want to stay in a good place. And in order to do either one of those, I think you have to be so conscientious of your thoughts all day. And we need to get in the practice of literally stopping when we're suffering during the day. Because moments of suffering, they don't have to be huge. They could simply be, I'm suffering because I'm stuck in traffic, or I'm suffering because I'm running late, or I'm suffering because whatever. I have a disobedient dog at home and I've got to go home and take care of it. Whatever. It could be very small thoughts that creep into your mind. And instead of, like you said, Jen, instead of thinking about, okay, this is true, I have to deal with it, what are some solutions, right? Instead of contemplating the future, we get stuck on the problem. And maybe the decision we made was a mistake or whatever. And we get stuck there. And until I started this last year really thinking about my thoughts all day, my goal is like at least 10 times a day, I should be stopping during the day and going, what am I thinking about? And especially when I don't feel good, what am I thinking? And if you can at least be aware that you are doing it to yourself, then all of these things are fantastic steps. But the first thing to do is to say, my goal is to stop myself 10 times a day and be aware of what I'm thinking. Because I swear, for me, that was eye-opening. I was shocked at how much I was worrying. Thoughts that were worrisome.
He talked a lot about when you think of the future, like what's going to happen in the future, that creates anxiety. That's where anxiety comes from. And when you think about the past, that's where regret comes from. And you can't do anything about what's already happened. And you really don't know what's going to happen in the future. Right. So that's why he was like, I choose to be in the present. And again, it goes back to the flow chart of like, can I make a change? And then another point, going back to something that you said about your thoughts, he was saying that he calls his brain Becky.
I know.
Because Becky interrupts his business. Like, like he'll go, all of a sudden a thought will pop in and he'll say, hold on, Becky. Like, we'll talk about this at 6, we're not going to chat about this right now, but it is true. Like, I am that person where I'm I don't know, like I could be painting a wall and I'm having 14,000 thoughts, and then I'll put the paintbrush down and go do something else. And then like I'm buzzing around because get so distracted by my own thoughts and what I have to do. And but anyway, I found that was really interesting. And then the other thing too is like watching, when he was talking about surrounding yourself around negativity or negative things. Like he doesn't watch scary movies. He doesn't watch the news, because it's all doomsday,
layering,
negative things. And when you sit and watch that all day, every day, he was saying it's like exercising your brain to be that way. I mean, I thought that was an interesting way to put it, is that you're training your own brain that this is how to think and feel, that sort of thing. So,
and that this is real life, and this is the only way that the world works. And
right.
Yeah,
it's so true.
I love NPR, but I stopped listening to it because every one I listened to, I then became very passionate and worried. And, it's like, I can't worry about everybody in the entire world. It was just too much for my brain. I stopped watching the news. It was just, and I don't watch like even really not very good movies, like a lot of fighting and stuff. I stopped doing that because I'm trying to be in a more positive place. And I perseverate on things, like I can't get them out of my mind. So it's just easier for me not to even put them there.
Yeah,
I think another interesting thought, and I think he talked about this as well, but it might have been a different podcast on Diary of a CEO, because I kind of started looking into other podcasts after you sent that. But one of the things they talked about was when you stop yourself, when you're in the midst of a thought and you realize that it's creating a reaction you do not want. If you stop, the first thing to say to yourself is, I am safe. If you look around and you're in your home or you're in your car and you are safe. And I can't remember if that was him or the other girl right after him, but there was a neurophysicist that also talked about different things. But the idea is that this fight or flight, right? And we are that is our biological wiring. And so I have learned, especially since December, that that calms me very quickly. No matter what I'm thinking about, no matter where I'm going, if I stop and go, look, I am safe. Like, look around my environment and go, I am safe. And then my next step nowadays, just recently, has been to constantly look around and go, okay, I'm safe. Oh, and I'm grateful that, my bed is fixed today. And I'm grateful that the air conditioner is working because it didn't work last week. Or I'm grateful and just like constantly try and pull myself back into being grateful. And I know he did talk about gratitude like that.
Yes.
I think he said that is the main thing he would offer somebody if they want to be happy. He's like, if somebody wants to be happy, they must find gratitude first. And it's true. If you're not grateful, it's a very, very long path to feeling happy.
For sure.
So what are the things, how do you guys define happiness for yourself? I wrote mine down.
Yeah. Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Well,
do you want to hear it?
You do it.
I'm going to ask you a question, but I'm going to answer it.
I know. What did y'all write? Well, let me tell you what I wrote.
I think I define, because happy to me is like a foo-foo word, like it doesn't mean anything. I think to me, happy means I want to find a place where whatever's happening, I can find peace.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
even
great.
like you can't get away from hard things. You can't get away from feeling sad, losing people, getting in arguments with friends. Like you can't get away from that. But I think that would make me happy, or I would feel like I was happy if I could be at peace with all of the hard things too.
Yes.
Laughter, being around people with laughter, makes me really happy. And then
Yeah.
nature makes me really
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah.
So those are the three main things for me that
Yeah.
define my happiness or that improve my happiness.
Yeah, I didn't write one down, but I feel like I always looked, of course, to my family, my grandkids, my kids, my husband. That is my place of happiness. And when we all get together, I
Yeah.
feel the best. Like it feels so good to be with everybody, and I do find a lot of happiness in that. And then I think when I look at just life in general and life overall, it is being just satisfied with where I am and
Yeah.
not wishing more to come, like
Yeah.
not hoping that, I get more,
Yeah. Because
so
it just
I do.
assumes, it tells your brain it's not enough what you have right
Yeah.
now. Right.
Well, and something in that podcast too that I remember him saying is that we have been trained very young that happiness is being successful in your job, having a
Yeah.
car, having a home, being married, having children. So if you don't hit those points in your life, what's it
Yeah.
going to do? It's going to create unhappiness. And it is very true. It's like people have defined what happiness is for us. And I think that's the hard part, is to back
Yeah.
up and say, what is happiness? Because it is so different for every person.
For sure.
So, yeah.
It's interesting too. You just said that, and I just remembered a story. A couple months ago, I was out, and I was with a friend of mine, and she has a young daughter I think she's 3 or 4, and she's started a new private school. And my friend was extremely upset when I met with her, and her daughter had come home and was crying and said that they were working on emotions, that they had something called emotion cards. And they were teaching them like different emotions and what they felt like. And I'm sure that the intention was very, very good, right? And I don't know anything about this. Again, it was the first I'd heard of it, but it just reminded me. They were teaching them about how to control their emotions and what emotions are and how to define them. And the little gal came home and said to her mom, I'm not happy. And she had a conversation with her, and it came out that the teacher had said something to her like, well, you need to learn to be happy. You need to smile. And she had all this criteria on how to see if you're happy or not. And that night, she said she talked to her daughter about it. She knew her daughter was upset. But she was tiny, 3, 4 years old.
Yeah.
And so she said, we talked, but I didn't exactly know what to say. So my husband and I talked about it when she went to bed. And she said we were going to try and talk with the teacher to learn more about the program. And she said that night she woke up, came in my room. She said, when I opened my eyes, she was standing in front of me, and she had bit all her nails down, and her cuticles were bleeding.
Oh my
and
gosh.
she said, I don't know what happy is. And she just kept like it stuck in her head. And I thought to myself, I said to her, I find that almost cruel. Like at that age, when you're trying to get somebody to figure out what happy is, that doesn't even make sense to me. The pressure of being happy can be so intense that you have a harder time getting there, just simply because you feel like there's a way, a method, a definition. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know if I could define it. I don't. If when you say like, "What's your happy?" What does happy mean? I'm not even sure if it's kind of like what you said, Jen. It doesn't really mean anything. That word is irrelevant to me now. It's like, I hope during the day I can feel peace, and I hope that I can feel content, and I hope that I can feel like I want to smile every once in a while. I hope that I can giggle. If I go to bed and I've had that kind of day, I feel like, wow, I've had a few moments of this nice, happy feeling today. But he said in that podcast, it should be unconditional. Like your everything that you are trying to build cannot be a condition. So if you say,
Right.
I want to spend time around my family and that makes me happy, but you go in and the family is in a huge uproar that day
you're right.
and they're fighting, it's like
Yeah.
that can't take away.
Yeah.
Do you know what it's like? You have to still find
Yeah.
this place where you can anchor inside yourself,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
and that's where he talks about meditation. And I'm always amazed by how many times people who are so wise from
Yeah.
all walks of life, from all religions, from all cultures, from all ages, talk about how important meditation is.
Didn't he
Yeah.
say he had a hard time meditating? Because that's what I took away from it. That he tried it, meditation. He couldn't do it because his brain works very differently. He's very analytical. He's
Yeah.
A researcher. He's very data driven, and that he does spreadsheets for everything. So, but that was his kind of way of doing his own meditation, I believe. But
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. So
Have
everybody
you
might
guys
have a
ever
little
followed the Blue Zones with Dan Buettner? So he was a researcher that looked at the countries that had the most centenarians, so the most people that lived to 100, and saw what their habits were and all of their lifestyle and what made them live so long. And he also found that they were some of the happiest people that he's ever met. And there were several things that he spoke about: community, like volunteering, being with friends,
Yeah.
getting together with people on a regular basis. All of those people had that. Food, what they ate and how much they ate made a huge difference in their life. Purpose, finding a purpose, like all of them
Yeah.
had a purpose in their small
Yeah.
communities. You were the farmer, you were the the cook, you were the
Yeah.
everybody had a purpose. Movement, they all walked or exercised every day. It was just part of their lifestyle. And then spirituality and religion. So those were the things where all of these happiest people kind of different pillars of health.
Yeah, that makes total sense too.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Awesome.
I think the key for me is just to keep thinking about it,
Yeah.
and keep growing and making an intention every day. I really think that's the most important, is that whatever you believe, however you get to those moments of feeling good about yourself or your day or your actions, it just needs to be an intention every day. You need
Yeah.
to be conscious of your thoughts and have whatever it is, have a system on how you are going to get yourself back to this unconditional space of love for yourself. And
Yeah.
then hopefully that branches
Yeah.
out to community, family, the world.
I will
Yeah.
say it's a little bit stressful when you're not happy or when you're going through a really, really hard time. And then you're like, for me, it's very hard because I'm trying to be in a better mindset.
Yeah.
But then when I'm not happy and things are not going well, it's almost more stressful for me to
It is
think,
hard.
but I need to get back on here. Like, I need to be intentional. And then, so sometimes I think it's okay to just not be and
Yeah.
just accept, like, give yourself
Where you
some
are.
grace.
Yeah. Go
Yeah.
through it. Just go
'Cause
through it.
Yes, it's very stressful to feel like
You have to be.
you have to be happy. You have to be in a good place because
Yeah.
life is hard.
I think that's why people isolate themselves
Mm-hmm.
as well. You think about it, like nobody wants to be the Debbie Downer of the group,
Right.
so they don't, they don't
And
have that
Probably
that
what
joy.
they need. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And they probably need that interaction, but there's a lot of pressure to be a certain way.
Right.
So
For sure.
But you can get out a little bit ahead of that. I mean, I'm just thinking about people, like he lost his son, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking about, I also read a book years ago about a survivor of the Holocaust. And he wrote a book about what he started to think when he was in there and how he
Right.
started to find beautiful moments. And I am thinking that if you have a habit of trying to stop negative thought, a negative thought pattern from arising. If you're driving to work and you're worried about something because you're in a bad spot that day or that week or that month, you're just in a bad place. Stuff has happened that has created a really difficult environment. You can help yourself by getting a little bit out in front of that, by having some moments of solitude, meditation, whatever, where where you're thinking, okay, right now I need a little self-love. You know, what am I grateful for sitting in this car? Am I safe? Is this happening? There is always something that
For
you can
sure.
be grateful about, even in these
For sure.
stressful moments, because
For sure.
that was really the point I got out of his whole podcast was he lived through hell.
Yeah.
And he the way he speaks about the love for his family, his ex-wife, I mean, it's so respectful and so
admirable.
beautiful.
Yeah.
His whole mindset to me is just absolutely incredible. And yet he's gone through some amazingly difficult things. And they both said us, you know, having these breakdowns is not going to bring him back.
Right.
You know, so we need to find ways to help ourselves to, you know, to make a difference in the world through his name. So it's like, it's what you're saying. I think if you go back to thinking about service, or you go back to a spiritual belief or a religious belief, whatever it is, that's something you're anchored in, that this too shall pass, you know, some kind of belief like system where you can say to yourself, and I think you even talked about in the podcast, when you look back at all the bad things that have happened to you, would you erase them if you could?
And he said 99.9% of
People
people said no.
No way, because they're afraid of what could have happened if they erased that, what it would take away in their life that's so beautiful. So
that's what's
you do
really
have
interesting.
to sort of, it is interesting. You have to keep perspective on the fact that, yes, shit happens because life is tough. But 99.9% of the time, when you're on the other side of it and you see the beauty that comes from it, and the growth that comes from it, or the effect that it's had around you, you're not going to go back and change it.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you believe that, then you think when you're going through something hard, well, I probably wouldn't have changed my other stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe just hang through, hang in. And
there's some lesson going to be learned through this, or some growth, or something's going to happen. I do believe that. I feel like things happened to me young that I was like, you know, poor me, that shouldn't have happened, or da 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 da. And then many years later, I'm like, well, thank God I went through that. I really grew up. I really became a lot more mature because that happened, you know?
Right.
So,
and you have insight. It's really hard to offer people, children, nieces, nephews, students. It's hard to offer them any kind of help or a lifeline or any kind of thought if you've never gone through it. If you can't connect to it, you just sit there disconnected. You can't relate. But when you yourself have been down those hard roads and you see somebody younger struggling, there's this part of you that says, it's going to be okay. Like, and I promise you, I've been there. I've done it. It's what it's all about. It's what it's all about.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know what else it could be about. Just us living gleefully and giggling 100% of the time.
Know,
like, it can't be that.
We'd be bored with that.
Yeah.
So. I mean, it would be a shit podcast.
We wouldn't have anything to talk about. Well, and going back to that, pulling yourself out of it, though, I think that's part of that exercising your brain. Like, he was like, I don't mean to brag, but 7 seconds tops, I'm out, you know, like, he can pull out of a funk, but that takes practice. I mean, that's some legit practice. And that's kind of like what we've talked about, many things on other podcasts that we've talked about. It's like, you just like thoughts, you know, getting those negative thoughts out of your head, like stopping them and being aware. It's practice. It's building that muscle. So
it's well worth it, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Well worth the practice.
Right.
So what's your takeaway? What's your golden nugget?
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe make a definition of what you think is happy, you know, and kind of think through it and of why that is happy for you. And a happiness flow chart that he talked about, like Jen said, if you do acknowledge your emotion, ask yourself what the thought, is it true? You know, can you change it? I think if you go through it, to me, that's what maybe the nugget is can you go through that flow?
Tools. Yeah.
That's right.
It is. Yeah. I don't know. I think that was a good point. So that's a great takeaway.
Yeah, I do too.
So
it was a good one.
Very good.
So
all right.
It was a good one.
Well, we're wishing you all a lot of happiness, however that looks to you. And be sure to listen, hit subscribe, hit like, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Sounds great.
Bye.
Bye.